Hey, welcome back to Evil's Comics. This guy right here is Evil Mike, or Mike if you prefer, and this is going to be my Night Terrors review, week 6. Technically, this is week 5. I got the weeks confused, but I do have 5 books to cover. We'll get there. Before we get started, please like, comment, subscribe on this guy's channel. It does help. All the likes, the comments, that's what I'm here for, you know. Hit the bell if you're so inclined. Yeah, I don't have a schedule, but that'll keep you in touch when I do drop videos. It'll notify you. It's all free, doesn't cost you anything. Alright, so before we get started, all the books information will be down in the description. I don't want to waste the time going over all the artists and colorists and stuff like that. Another detail is if you want to skip, if you've read some of these, the timestamp is down below. Just click on, you know, a minute detail and it'll take you to that book. So let's get started, right? So first up, we got Black Adam. This is issue number 2. The first issue, he's basically like set on a quest within the Nightmare Realm. Again, all these people are asleep, and you know, Insomniac's still looking for the stone. At this point, we do know where the stone is, but you know, I mixed up the weeks somehow. I don't understand. But basically, the Black Adam's still going on with this quest. He was greeted by Batman, and he quickly figures out that it's not Batman, that it's somebody messing with him, kind of thing. And he does figure out that it's Deadman. Deadman tries to come relay a message to Black Adam saying that he needs his help and stuff like that. And Black Adam kind of pushes it off and just kind of continues with his quest. He's got to do like 3 towers or something like that. He has this guide, which is this cat that's with him or whatever. There you go. But basically, he in the first book he went to the first tower, and this one he makes it to the second tower, and basically he's got to watch like as all his family members die in front of him, kind of thing. Eventually, he tries fighting this thing. It doesn't work out. It still eats the hearts or whatever. It kills his family. He goes forward. He smashes this tower. Continues on to the next tower, and it's kind of the same spiel. He does make it to the next tower, and when he gets to the next tower, he realizes it's like a form of the Rock of Eternia. At all levels of consciousness, the wizard is always tied to the Rock of Eternia, so this is supposed to be, the real wizard, which it turns out not to be. It's just been Insomnia messing with Adam. We're gonna get there, but there's like an important, this book is different from all the other ones that I've encountered so far. But basically, the wizard does turn into, I'm assuming, we don't get a name, but I'm assuming it's like Amon-Ra, the mightiest of the Egyptian gods or whatever. And it's basically like a bow down to me type of moment, and Shazam's just not doing it. He even revealed that no matter what he does, he's still connected to this thing, and it don't matter. It's just, Black Adam still tries to fight him, which ultimately, like, he does break this guy, and then ends up breaking the Rock of Eternia. The next thing Adam knows is he wakes up in that spot, and he thinks he's done with this situation. He sees like Kandak is all like destroyed and everything, but he did not wake up. He's one of the few in this series that did not wake up for his nightmare, and now he's facing something else, which it says it will be continued in Night's End. But as far as I know, he's one of the only people that has not woken himself out of the nightmare. He's still stuck in it. But that was Black Adam issue number 2. Next, we go to Batman. And again, I'm kind of speeding through these, they're just giving you like a rough overview. This one does take place during the issue, it's like between issue 2 and 3 of the Night Terror main book or whatever. So currently, Deadman is with Batman and stuff. Batman's stuck in, Murder Alley, and the last issue we saw this like bat thing that emerged with a gun from his head. We'll see it in a second. But basically, Bruce is stuck fighting all these like kind of like evil versions of himself, and they're not evil. They're just like bestowing him with guilt kind of things. But I mean, we're talking about Batman, right? And Batman quickly realizes he's in a nightmare. Once this happens, he utilizes his like dream powers. You know, most people that like I myself am capable of doing this. Once I realize I'm in a dream, I kind of have fun with the dream, and that's exactly what Batman does. He gives himself superpowers. He starts flying. You know, he even states in the real world he would think this is ridiculous, but since it's in a dream, you know, he utilizes every kind of known superpower that he can. And he basically, I mean, there's some cool shots and stuff. They show him like kind of flying through different pieces of the multiverses. They show like the Dark Knight Returns, the Vampire. They even show like Batman friends with Brainiac or whatever. But he's heading towards somewhere with those superpowers, and eventually we find out it's this black door that's hidden within his mind. We do get to see what's hidden within the black door, and of course it's that, you know, it's that moment when you know, the when his parents died, when, you know, Murder Alley and stuff like that. But basically he lured Insomnia here because we find out it's not a place that he hid. It's a place that gives him immense power and stuff like that. It keeps him humble, kind of thing. And we find out exactly what's in the black door. It's basically, like I mentioned, it's that moment, but it's the 90 minutes that after his parents died, before Commissioner Gordon came and scooped him up after his parents died. It's that 90 minutes when he's still scared, innocent, you know, not so confident, kind of thing. But that's why he keeps that there. It kind of like humbles himself, kind of thing. We do know that he, you know, he's not perfect and he has tons of flaws. We do get to see something crazy cool, and it's basically Bruce talking to his younger self and telling him that, you know, that he kind of gets to see something that he's always been afraid of himself. You know, if his younger self saw him as Batman and knew everything that Batman had done, would he be scared of Batman when he saw him? And this answers that question, that no, he wouldn't be scared. And honestly, you know, he would see Bruce as a savior, and that's kind of where we get, you know, at the end of this. So Bruce was with Damian since he's with Deadman, and this is going with the night terror, you know, what's happening in the main world. At this moment, you know, they're telling Bruce to wake up. We get some crazy shots of, like, you know, different multiverse versions of, I forget his name, Abzur, or whatever the alternate Mindscape version of Bruce is. But basically, supposedly Batman gets pulled back into the real world. When he sees the real world, and this is supposed to be Gotham, it looks like they failed and everything is dead. We get the next page, and Robin's basically kind of telling him that, and then we're going to get to see the results of this in Night Terrors issue 3 and 4, but Robin's just mentioning that they succeeded in their plan, but they still failed. The book ends right there and jumps over to Black Canary and Roy, Arsenal or Speedy, I don't know what he goes by. But basically it's kind of like what happened to them while they were going through this, and they were in Louisiana swamps for some reason. We see them kind of, you know, go to sleep, and then it's basically them going through this nightmare. You know, Roy sees a whole bunch of like zombies that he can't hit. Every time he fires an arrow, it swishes like right by them, kind of thing. Black Canary's going through the typical thing that you would realize she's going through. She can't scream, kind of thing, or basically she can't be heard or whatever. They both overcome their fears, and we see that it's not too soon, because they do show what's going on in the real world, and Roy over here is about to be eaten by an alligator or whatever. But at the last second, like, we see the Black Canary, you know, they both overcome Black Canary first, but she does wake Roy up, and then they realize that they're stuck in some kind of, you know, some kind of field, and it looks like, it does look like the Insomnia wave that he sent out, but theirs looks like it's stuck there. But that was the end of Batman issue number 2. Alright, so next up we are touching base with the Joker issue number 2. You know, Joker's he was living in a real world. He had, you know, because he had killed Batman, and he started working in the real world. He was working at Wayne Towers or whatever, and that's kind of where we're picking up. At the end of it, it was kind of assumed that he didn't kill Batman, that Batman was still out there. People kept mentioning it to Joker, and it was making him slowly go back insane, kind of thing. So this book starts out, and it's in this, it's basically with this version of Batman, and he's beating on, some criminals, and not just beating them, but, and I will say this Batman reminds me of, because it is Joker, as you can see right here, but, and basically that's what this story is in a nutshell. But this Batman is a lot funnier. It reminds me of Peter Parker, kind of, because he has all these quips or whatever. But as the book goes, it constantly shows you that Joker's either dreaming this, and that's not what it is. And Joker's gone so, like, completely the opposite insane that when he's sleepwalking, he's literally, turning into Batman. He's going out and saving Gotham and stuff. We do see that at this moment in this, because remember, Joker's stuck in his nightmare, but Joker has a nightmare family, has a wife, a son. They do have names, like his son's name is Albert, and I forget what his wife's name is, but basically, he has a nightmare family, but that'll change as the nightmare goes on. We get a couple different moments where, like, in this one specifically with Victor Fries, and it's an interview with Joker, and he's trying to get hired on at the Wayne Enterprises, and basically he's trying to get hired on because the same reason Joker's there. He believes Joker's playing and hiding his true nature, and it's part of his scheme. And Mr. Freeze wants in. He also mentions that the whole underworld is scared of this version of Batman, and way more scared of this Batman than the regular Batman, kind of thing. Eventually, like, Mr. Freeze goes all crazy and tries attacking Joker because he doesn't believe his whole, like, innocent, like, I'm just working kind of thing. And he does go hostile, and Joker eventually has to deny his application or whatever. And we see it's not just Mr. Freeze, it's Scarecrow and other villains are trying to do the same thing. They're basically trying to hide from the Batman by working regular jobs and not doing anything bad. The book does reiterate that Joker really does think that this version of Batman is dead. I mean, he died right in front of him. But it goes back that every time he goes to sleep, he kind of, he prowls the Gotham, and he's protecting it in his way. Actually, the way the book says, he's doing a lot better version of Batman because violence is down, muggings are down, that kind of thing. We do get this occasion where, like, he runs into one of his old crews. Gabby is there, and everybody's all weirded out about it. They don't understand what's going on, kind of thing, because they see that it's Joker under the Batman mask, but he's claiming to be Batman, and he's not Joker, kind of thing. But he comes up with this plan that eventually, that he's going to try and capture the Batman and prove that the real Batman is dead, kind of thing. We get more, like, his living his real life kind of thing. He has this, like, softball employee kind of game or whatever, where he eventually kills one of the people in front of everybody, and it's just random how the book takes it. They don't see it as a bad thing. They just see him as releasing, kind of thing, but nothing ever bad happens to him. We do get this ironic moment where Bruce Wayne starts wanting to talk to Joker, and he wants to talk to Joker about the Batman. He gets invited to, like, Wayne Mansion or whatever, and if you notice, Bruce Wayne's wearing the Killing Joke outfit. We get this hysterical moment where, like, Bruce Wayne's table is, like, super, super long, and like, Bruce Wayne is actually seated over here, and Joker physically has to walk way the hell over here. They show it at the bottom here. But basically, it's kind of like Insomnia messing with Joker in, like, weird ways. Like, they ask what he wants to eat. He's allergic to shellfish, and so is Bruce Wayne. And they both, like, I mean, you can see Bruce Wayne's, like, tearing into the shellfish. And, but all along, Insomnia is there. He claims to be different people during the scenario. At one time, he's Joker's boss. He's basically Alfred for Bruce Wayne. But the whole time, he's, like, plugging little things to mess with Joker about Batman still being real, that kind of thing. we go back to like Joker's real life, you know, working him at the job, and it's kind of the same thing. People keep mentioning Batman, and he ends up going crazy, or he mentions something about, you know, like the Joker used to joke, and he's, I don't, there's weird things. You would have to read it to get some of that, but a lot of it is just this mind game, you know, with insomnia messing with the mind game that Joker is, kind of thing. And it really not taking. Joker's still kind of figuring out that something is amiss, kind of thing. There is a moment when he comes back home and he realizes his son has found the dead corpse of Batman. Of course, it was hidden from his family. His nightmare wife and his nightmare son didn't know about the dead corpse, and they both find it and, you know, start accusing Joker, you know, what's going on? Why is this dead guy in the closet? You know, and there's jokes and quips that come with it. But eventually this is where we get to the point where Joker is like, look, I need to prove that the Batman I have is real in the closet, and the one that's running out there is a imposter, kind of thing. And at this point when you're reading it, you know that Joker is Batman, kind of thing. And that's basically where the rest of the book is Joker setting up this massive trap and going back to his old ways to trap this Batman. And he does succeed. He sets up this trap. It gets, you know, he assaults these people using some thugs, and he doesn't hurt them or anything. He just wants them to scream, and sure enough, Batman shows up. When Batman shows up, he starts taking out all the goons, but quickly realizes that all the goons are covered in this like gooey type substance. You can see it there, and he basically gets stuck there in that situation. And eventually they complete the second part of the task, which is releasing like a new Joker, you know, invented poison or whatever, and you can see it basically. He kills himself. He traps that Batman, which is himself. He ends up killing himself. So the very last thing we get is Joker literally waking up out of this nightmare, and he's with a couple other people we see, like Solomon Grundy, the ventriloquist. I want to say those are the only ones that I recognize right there. But basically, him killing himself in his nightmare woke him up. Maybe that was Joker physically figuring out that he was in the nightmare, and that's what he figured out he needed to do. But he did wake himself out of the nightmare, and basically at the end of it he's going back to sleep, kind of thing, and that's where this issue leaves off. You can see him taking a nap right there. Alright, so very last but not least, I threw these in because I passed them up originally, but we're going to touch base with Ravenger 1 and 2, and it's a quick story. Amazing art. This one was hands down one of the better tie-ins. But basically we're in this nightmare like horror story with a little version of Rose. And it's basically we find out these like horrible things that are tracking her down and killing her family, kind of thing, in front of her, and it just keeps repeating. We also find out that there is this thing that they're working for called the Murder Man. The Murder Man is supposed to be like a horrified version of Deathstroke, but this version can travel through blood. Once he cuts you, he basically can, you know, travel to that blood. He reminds me a lot of Carnage, but basically we got the Murder Man, and this is who Rose is running from. Eventually during this story, our real Rose, Ravenger, gets sucked into this is her nightmare, but eventually she appears in this nightmare, and she runs into the little version of Rose and does what she does best. She starts, you know, killing these things that are after her, but she realizes that she really can't kill these things. She grabs Rose and she ends up running. We find out a lot of details from this younger version of Rose about the Murder Man and stuff like that, but basically at the end of this one we find out that this little version of Rose is like working with that Murder Man, you know, kind of thing, and it was just part of the plot to get Rose here. We get this one little shot of, because Rose eventually does get like knocked out temporarily by these forces before the Murder Man can show up. I'd like to point that out. But we do see in the real world that Rose Wilson was working with Wildstorm, and she is with Peacekeeper 1, and he found her and he's trying to wake her up, and that's where this one it leaves off. Issue 2 directly continues that, and it's basically, you know, Ravenger on the run after she briefly woke up. She was attacked by you know, that version of Rose. And everywhere she goes, this murder man just starts appearing. Eventually, it is a real fight between Rose and this murder man, and we find out that the murder man is literally trying to leave the nightmares. He's tired of working for Insomnia, and he's basically trying to make it to the real world, claiming that this version of Rose Wilson is the portal that will lead him to the real world. So that's kind of the scare in her nightmare kind of thing. As this is going on, we get, you know, shots of like Wildstorm and Peacekeeper 1, and they're basically going to attempt to awaken Rose. As this is going on, of course, she's fighting the murder man, and at this point she's kind of figured out that she can't physically hurt him with her blade and this and that, but it does get to the point where she does figure out, you know, how to, I would say best, because she doesn't really kill him, but we'll get there in a second. But she does end up using like some hydroglycerin, I think, and she freezes the murder man because she couldn't cut him, you know, because he moved with blood. So basically she froze him and then shatters him. And at that moment she walks over to Rose, and she has this touching conversation about what Rose is and who she's going to be, and how villains aren't really villains and heroes aren't really heroes kind of thing. And at that exact moment, that's when Peacekeeper 1 was waking her up, and so it was kind of like both missions were accomplished thing. I would like to admit that whatever Peacekeeper 1 woke her up with is this blue vial. They never mention what it is. It's not Lazarus, because Lazarus is green, but they did show this twice in waking up Rose, so I have a feeling it's going to come into play later on. The very end of this book is basically like, you know, Rose realizing she was in a nightmare. The nightmare staff can't, you know, follow her through. We get this little drop of blood on the bar, you know, and we do see that it looks like the murder man might have made it into the real world kind of thing. But that's where this issue leaves off, and it just says the end question mark. It doesn't tell us if this is going to continue in the Night Terror thing or something later on down the line. But this is my review on all these Night Terror issues. I'm sorry that the weeks were out of order, but honestly, it still works, whatever. Because Insomnia is still going through the nightmares, even though they found the Nightmare Stone. He has not. So that's my review. Let me know down below what you thought of these, which were your favorite. Did you pass on the, you know, comment down below. I love that shit. But that's all I got for you. I'll have more reviews on the way. Bah!